Welcome to PSA Insurance, insurance design with the aided member in mind. My name is Susie Tuchinski. I'm an occupational therapist and certified driver rehabilitation specialist with over 20 years of experience. I have my own private practice, Adaptive Mobility Services. In my practice, I provide both client services and continuing education training for OTs advancing into the field of driver rehab. As someone in private practice who works with both clients and therapists in my vehicle, insurance is at the top of my brain. I often get questions from others about vehicle coverage, my overall business general liability, and professional liability insurance. I think it's really important to understand your coverage and ensure you have what you need to keep yourself, your clients, and your company covered. Pat with PSA is our representative helping us today. Pat is the Vice President and Account Executive with PSA Insurance and Financial Services. Let me tell you a little bit more about PSA. They were established in 1928. They have 150 employees and over 14,000 accounts countrywide. They are the largest insurance broker for the mobility industry. They are number one when it comes to independent multidisciplinary financial services firms and within the top 100 largest property and casualty insurance agencies in the United States. They offer expert advice and advocacy for commercial property and casualty insurance, risk management, employee benefit programs, human resource consulting, and much more. Let's start by taking a look at the different types of insurances that will be important to you as a driver rehabilitation specialist. First up is automobile. Automobile insurance is going to cover your liability and physical damage, comprehensive and collision, on any company-owned or operated automobile. Professional liability is coverage there for the non-tangible business operations. This covers the recommendations, advice, and evaluations that you may provide to your clients, suppliers, and vendors. General liability covers bodily injury and physical damage claims from third-party payers. These are the claims that arise out of the vehicle. Property coverage is there for the equipment, business personal property, building, and loss of income. Workers' compensation is important if you have more than 2 employees. This provides coverage for injuries employees may sustain during the scope of their day. Umbrella or excessive liability coverage are for limits above and beyond your auto liability, general liability, and employer liability limits. And finally, ancillary coverage is there for employment practices liability, cyber liability, and sexual abuse. Let's take a look at some common issues and concerns. First, does my professional liability insurance cover me in the car? It's important to understand that a vast majority of all professional liability policies do not cover exposures associated with driver evaluation and driver training. AOTA, HPSO, etc. do not provide behind-the-wheel coverage under their policies. It's important to understand this and to know what to look for. You want to look for professional liability policies that are based on the services rendered. If you perform a service that is not actually listed in your policy, then there is no coverage in place. So if you have no coverage in place, if something were to happen, you will be paying for defense and damages for that claim out of pocket. To remedy this situation, you want to make sure to confirm in writing that your behind-the-wheel exposure is picked up by your professional liability policy. Sometimes this will also be covered under your general liability policy, but carriers that do that are very limited. This is a copy of the HPSO policy that normally covers OT, PT, and speech. As you will see, the highlighted section is where you would need to see driver rehab, driver evaluation, driver training. In the event of an accident, claim, suit, etc., from something occurring behind the wheel, there would be no coverage under this policy. Many feel that just because they have professional liability insurance in place, that everything they do from their day-to-day business is covered. But this is not the case. As a matter of fact, most of these carriers won't even add a behind-the-wheel training. It is important to keep this in mind. While these different providers provide amazing products to cover what you may do as an OT, physical therapist, etc., unfortunately, these carriers do not have an appetite for the behind-the-wheel exposure, as they are quite different from controlled environments that you would normally see in a clinic. Does regular car insurance provide the same level of coverage? No, this is important to understand as well. In my first job as a driving rehab specialist, I worked for a hospital system that initially said, well, we have a fleet of vehicles. We already have insurance, so your car should be covered here. That should be enough, right? But the truth is, vehicles are rated by insurance carriers based on the use of that vehicle. So a personal vehicle or fleet vehicle that is primarily used for self-transportation will be rated differently than a vehicle that's used to deliver or transport others, such as a shared ride, or be used to transport clients. It's important to have the right vehicle coverage for the services you are providing so the coverage matches your risk. This holds true if you are in private practice and using your personal vehicle as your driver rehab vehicle as well. Here are a couple of considerations. Personal auto policies do not cover driver training exposure. This is an actual Geico policy sent in by an aided client, showing that the carrier has the right to deny the claim if they feel you have misrepresented the exposure on the policy. It is also important to understand that equipment used in your vehicle is not covered unless it is being used during a scheduled appointment. This is because this risk can be picked up under your property policy for minimum premium. The highlighted section spells out what needs to be done to make sure the extension pedal, hand controls, adaptive equipment are covered while they are in the vehicle. So let's think about how could this affect you and your business? Without the proper coverage, you will be open to having to pay defense and damages out of pocket for any claims brought against you. The best way to remedy this situation is to verify in writing that your policies and carrier understand what you are doing with this vehicle and that there's coverage in place or extensions in place for the operation you need. Let's talk about who's looking for insurance. We are now starting to see dealers requiring the CDRS to provide proof of insurance. More and more, every company, small, medium, and large, are being required by insurance carriers to only work with other fully insured subcontractors. With the growth of the mobility industry, the spotlight is becoming bigger and bigger as more and more are requiring this before any work can be done. Operations wants to make sure that not all liability falls on them because of a third party. This is a generic slide which gives you an idea of what your COI should look like if proper coverage is in place. This is what a mobility dealer, supplier, or the VA will request. Please note, this is just an overview of what is contained in your policy. Your policies should never be given to a third party. As you return to work and start digging through your files and looking at your coverage, here are some good questions to consider. How do I know if I'm properly covered? We recommend you have someone who understands your business review your policies. What is my true liability on a day-to-day basis? Again, we recommend you have a conversation with a trusted insurance consultant who will walk with you through your day-to-day operations. From there, a list of questions should arise, and at that point you can start connecting the dots between what you do and where amongst your policies it's covered, or where your exposures are. I'm worried my insurance agent doesn't understand my business. If you are the only aided member, CDRS, driver trainer, evaluator with that insurance company, then chances are they do not understand your business. And as a result, you may have increased inherent exposure. Keep in mind, PSA is coverage you can count on. It can be frustrating when your broker drops your renewal in your lap at the last minute. Not sure if that's ever happened to you, but a lot of people have had that experience and are frustrated because they feel like they have no choice but to renew, and there's just no time to consider other options. With PSA, you don't just get Patrick, but you get a whole team of people dedicated to your account. The process works to push the carriers to produce your renewal as quickly as possible and to avoid the stress of rushed renewals. So bottom line, working with somebody who knows our industry, knows the risks and coverage needs, ultimately will save you time, stress, and money by providing you with the coverage you need to do your job. What questions do you have and how can we help?